Miss O'Brien.
Yeah, it's not the first time.
For the what's it called? For the X.
Yeah, I hit it home run.
That 90
Because you could plug in any X value to get a Y. So that's a good question. No, it's fine. So I'm going to explain it. All right, guys. Shh, goodbye. Good luck. Good luck. Okay. And Tall had an excellent question, and I want you to be able to hear it because you may get it wrong. Okay, so repeat the question. It's about domain.
Yeah. Oh, I have to ask it again?
Yes, for the screencast.
How do you get it? Because, like, does it hit every single number and that's what it is?
Okay, so to get the domain of all real numbers, what we're saying is you could plug in any X and it would give you a Y. So the only time we would exclude numbers is if I plugged in an X and I would get an undefined, or if it wouldn't give me a Y value, that's when it wouldn't be all real numbers. So later we're going to learn about if we have like a whole, so maybe we have something that's like a square root. You might not understand what that is. It looks something like this. Notice to the left here, there's no X values defined, right? So it's because the graph goes in both directions forever. I draw arrows, right? These arrows right here means it goes on forever. If I zoom out far enough and the graph just keeps going, it goes on forever in both directions.
So basically,
it doesn't have a start and end point.
Okay.
It doesn't have a hole. So remember how we drew on a number line like holes where we don't include it? Yeah. Cool.
Right,
yes.
so,
I have two questions.
Mhm.
One, what's the difference between this and a parabola?
Parabolas are a U shape. These are a V.
Yeah, but like, why is it a V shape instead of U?
So this is literally just the y equals x function, but everywhere that's negative is reflected across. So it's literally the absolute value function is just like this. Oops. It's just like this guy. But this bottom half here is actually like no longer can be negative, so it goes up that way. It's reflected across the y. Yeah.
Also, and so to find the like absolute value of the function, the domain will always be all real numbers.
For your absolute value functions, yes. In this class, absolute value always all real numbers. Okay, so we went over, like, this is the only one of these special functions we're focusing on in this class. Like, this is another difference between Algebra 2 and our class. Algebra 2 goes through piecewise functions and other stuff like that. All right, so group calculator activity. So I'm going to graph this, and the goal is maybe you don't know how to use your calculator to graph. Well, I'm going to teach you today. So make sure it is powered on. And we're going to start by graphing these two graphs on our calculator.
My calculator got kidnapped.
No way.
Okay, so I open up my calculator. I'm just going to push the on. I'm going to go to the home. So I'm on home. Yes?
I gave my calculator to my brother for SAT and then I got back.
Oh yeah, I'm dead.
I don't know.
I'm going to steal it back.
I know, but I don't know what it is now.
I want you guys to practice your calculators. You need to bring out.
Wait, Caitlin says she's
I've had this calculator since freshman year.
Do you need one? Do you have one? You brought yours?
Someone needs
I need you to practice. No, I'm not throwing it. Please come get it. Dang it, you again. I know. Still disrupting class from afar. No, he was great. Okay, so you're on this, and I want you to scroll down to where it says graph. Push enter. So now, look, it says f1 of x. So I'm going to go really slow this first time to make sure we understand it.
Wait, how do you get F1 of X?
You have to, go to menu.
Yeah.
You press tab.
And then press graph entry.
So if it doesn't show up, guys, if it doesn't show up, push tab and look, it pops up. Or you could say Control G. So we all have this. If you do not have this,
I got it.
please raise your hand and we will direct you through. You don't have it?
No.
What's wrong? So you need to push tab so it pops up. If you don't have this line showing, you must push tab. Do we all have the line blinking right here?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't. Yes.
No, I have a question. On top of mine says degree instead of radical.
That's fine. You radian does not right now. Okay, shut your computer. You don't need it out right now.
No.
Shut it. Come on.
There's like a virus on my computer.
I think
And
that's
it's like
what it is.
taking, I swear I'm not doing it.
Jacob.
Whatever. Okay, ready? First thing we're gonna do, first one is absolute value of x, right? Look on your paper, please. Is it absolute value of x? Jesus Christ.
How do we do absolute value?
Absolute value of x. Okay, how do you do absolute value of x? So, there is a button to the right of your 9, and it's math template. It's highlighted right now.
What'd you just press?
It's the button to the right of 9.
What the
It is
hell?
not
Right, which
template.
way's the right?
Oh!
Alright, I have my
Yes, to
absolute
the right of 9. This
Now what
pops
do I
up.
click?
This pops up.
I have it.
Okay, I'm looking for absolute value.
Oh, I see it.
Middle.
Right here. Right here. You must scroll over and click on it using this middle part right here.
What number does
You
it
s-
in?
So you click, you have to click on absolute value so it pops up. You put X and then you can push the down arrow to go to F2 of X.
Whoa.
So
What?
after you put in X, push this down arrow right here and it will go to F2 of X. So what I want you to do is if this is not where you are, raise your hand. The person next to you should help you or I will come over. Okay.
So you like halfway pressing.
You have F2 of X right here. Scroll up, let's see.
Bro.
Okay, so you didn't insert anything here. You have to push this button. Scroll over to where the absolute value is.
Those, right?
Those are your real nails?
Alright, ready? Here we go. Next step.
That's crazy.
Okay.
No, that's not.
I'll do it for you, Jacob.
So the next step we're going to do.
Everyone shout out.
I'm going through slow so you can understand. If you don't have it on your calculator, raise your hand. I'm going through slowly so we all can practice. Because on your test, I will not help you graph. The test is testing your calculator skills. And if I'm spending time and slowing down to teach you this, I'm expecting you to follow along and know how to do it. Okay, the next one we're doing is absolute value of x and then plus 4. So you have to go over to the math template again. And you must scroll over to where absolute value is. You put x inside absolute value and you scroll over and then you have to push plus 4. Now if you push enter, they both are on the same graph. So if your calculator does not have both on there, please raise your hand and we'll help you.
I got it to an extent. It's just like the lines are different.
So you have the 4 inside. This needs to be outside. You must have the plus 4 outside the absolute value.
Is there a way to
This,
delete that? Or do I
yeah,
have to
so push
restart?
tab.
Got me.
Go inside and do the 4 and then scroll over and make sure it's outside. Your graphs should look exactly like mine. You should have 2 graphs. You should have exactly this on your screen.
I did it. My red line isn't as thick as that
You don't
one.
have the other one.
Yeah, I know. Other than that,
Why?
we're good.
Push tab.
Oh, I did the 2
actually, and then.
You don't have the first one. You need to put
No,
in
I
absolute
did
value
those.
of x.
My balls are hella forward.
No, yeah. 'Cause look at how look at the numbers on my calculator. Look how weird.
Right, and then you scroll down, and then I have x plus 4.
Yeah.
It goes by like,
Alright,
How do you
who
zoom in
does
and
not
zoom
have
out?
2 different graphs on there?
Yo, I gotta
I
have a
don't.
question
It
real
was like
quick.
I have to restart.
Guys.
the greatest.
Literally, what?
I said you're the greatest.
Thank you.
So, ideally, unless you have a question, literally, I don't want to hear noise. I'm trying to help people with their calculators. And I don't know if the rumbling is questions, so you raise your hand, and I can come over and help you. Okay. So, he's helping them. Does everyone have 2 graphs?
Yeah.
If you do not have this exactly on your screen, raise your hand.
Go down.
Okay.
My calculator is broken, bro.
It's not at all. So if you push menu, and then you can go to Windows Zoom, and then just go to standard. Just go to standard. Nope, hit standard, and then you'll have the exact same dimensions. Okay, are you ready for probably the hardest part of this whole thing?
yeah.
Now we go back, and we must graph it. But we know. So this first graph is just the absolute value of x. The big thing I'm looking for when you're putting it on your paper right now is, do you have the end of the V at the correct place? Notice I'm starting at the origin.
But
And it has a slow.
It's a 4.
Wait. Okay. First one we're doing, absolute value of x. Notice I labeled it. So slope should be 1 going to the right, and this is the slope of -1, a nice V shape. That's the first function. The next function we're going to do is the second one we graphed, which is absolute value of x plus 4. So you go up to the 4, and then you do your V. This is absolute value of x plus 4. So our first question is, how did the graph shift from absolute value of x to absolute value of x plus 4? How did it shift?
What? It just went up.
We changed it.
Up by 4.
There's a 4 and that's the y. That's the
Yes,
vertical.
this is a vertical
That's the right.
shift. Vertical shift. We're shifting it up. So I'm trying to build your intuition. Are you ready? At the end, I should be able to give you something like in this form.
Y equals 6.
I understood the calculator process, but I'm so
This is the form I'm trying to get you to be good with.
That was ridiculous.
So we are going through step.
And there's an X.
I'm gonna wait.
Guys, letter.
There's 3 letters.
Okay. I'm going to say this as like kindly as I can. I value your opinion. I love you as a human, but right now I don't need your words. I don't need your opinions. I don't need your comments. I want you to close mouth, open ear, right? So I'm explaining to you what we're doing, and this is the goal. So the first thing we're hitting is this K. What does this do? How does this shift our function? So we're going to mess around with this with a couple different functions. Then we'll go through and mess with the A character, and we'll mess with H. We'll see what each one of these does to our function. Okay, that's our goal, but we have to make sure we get through stuff. I can't
think K is the
take forever.
4.
Next thing we're doing, x squared and x squared plus 2. So we'll go back to the calculator. Oh my gosh, my line is gone, so I must push tab. And look, the line pops up, but this is f3 of x. Remember, I have to scroll up to reach my other functions, and I delete what I had before. So that way it goes away. I delete. I cleared my screen, so I
Wait,
push
how do you do that?
I push delete until I have the equal sign, and then I push the up arrow.
No,
Yes.
I just have F2
Oh, shit.
X.
Well, that was
Yeah.
cool.
That was so
I don't know what it says.
That's
The issue is if you kept pushing delete, you're gonna get into relations, and we only want functions. Cool. Okay, where are you at?
I'm pressing delete, but nothing else.
It delete without the bars.
So now you're good. Now you're like the leader for this chat. Make sure they know what they're doing.
I have it right also. The leader of the pack, do the alpha repeat. What's
Yeah, okay.
I swear.
All right. So this next graph. I don't want to have to make a screencast to make you watch at home. Let's focus. Okay. All right, so the next graph is x squared. So I put x, and then I need to have a squared. Do you see the little square key?
The little thing to the right.
But it turns into a parabola.
What?
Yeah, it should be.
Oh,
Two-
for Babylon.
Oh, x squared. You got this.
But it's not a V.
Exactly. Where this is not absolute value. This is a parabola.
Oh.
So besides showing you a graph you know, we're going to be covering this later, but surprise, when we cover this in chapter 4, you will already have seen transformations of a parabola. And I'm showing you graphs you don't already know, so that way you can make a general rule for like what this adding or subtracting something at the end does to a graph. So I put x, and then you have to put the little square key, and then you need to push the right arrow once, that way it pops down out of the exponent. And then it's plus 2, I believe. Yeah? Plus 2, is that what your paper says? Okay. No, the right arrow key.
Wait.
Plus 2.
Yeah.
Enter.
So notice what happens as we go from the blue to the red.
I
Yes.
understand that.
Up by 2. It goes up by 2. You literally take the graph and you shift it up by 2. Yes.
So if we do -2, we'll go down.
Yep.
We're doing +2 though, right?
Yeah, we are doing +2. So this is what your graph should look like. If you do not have these two, raise your hand. So you need to make sure you have these two. Once you're done, put it on your graph.
Wait, I did it, but then I didn't.
Okay, so we're going to do X. Perfect. All right, how are you feeling? You graph it. It's on there. Now put it on your paper. Put it on your paper.
You know you can do this.
So the way I want you to draw it on your paper, my original function, notice it starts at 0, 0, and it's just like a U shape. This is not going to be a perfect graph. All right, the goal, remember, our goal right now is to see what this thing at the end does. What does this +2 do? I don't really care about like exact points. I just want to see what's happening to my overall graph. So how does the graph shift from x squared to x squared plus 2?
It moves up.
Up by 2. Okay.
The number on the far right moves.
The number on the far right tells us how many units it goes up or down. It doesn't actually stretch or compress it. It literally takes the whole thing and moves it up or down. It doesn't like change the thing at all. It's literally moving it up or down. That's all it does. So we already see what's going to happen to it, but let's go ahead and let's try number 3. Because I want you to be comfortable with this. All right, so now we're going to start going faster because we've already taught you how to do this. This is our 3rd round now. So you push tab up. You clear your previous screens. And I must do square root. So I'm teaching you where the square root button is as well. So you have to push control and then the square button. And that's how you get the square root. The control button right here gives you access to all the light blue things that are above it. So if you push control and then x squared, it gives you the square root.
I knew that actually.
That's good. That's good.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, Miss Ron to represent.
Yeah. So you have a square root. You have to push tab, and then I want square root of the next one.
So there's the bar.
Why does it look so weird?
So this is x, and then you have to make sure you're outside of it, -1. So this is the graph of a square root function. So each one that we're doing, like we're going to go through parabolas, the U-shape, we'll be doing that in a later chapter. We'll be going through square roots in a later chapter. But even without knowing what the graph will look like, if I would just give you square root of x -1, you would be able to tell me it literally takes the parent graph, square root, and shifts it down by 1. Like you will have that ability, that intuition to know what it will look like. You might not know what the parent graph looks like, but you know it will be shifted down by 1. Yeah, it has to be outside the root.
I did it wrong.
Has to be outside the root.
Mine moved to the right.
So go back and change it. It has to be outside the root.
Okay, got you.
Okay, so I come here, and we are going a little bit faster every time because we are practicing calculator skills.
Yo, relax.
All right, so how did it shift? Down by 1. What? Okay, so we're ready for our 4th round.
It doesn't have to be exact, right?
No, it doesn't have to be exact. The points I care about are the where it starts. Here it starts at 0. This one starts at 1, and it's roughly like you go to the movie theater, roll slide.
Oh, I did it and I didn't know.
No,
Yeah.
it literally looks like square root.
What?
What?
What? That's how you know square root.
Try with the movie theater move.
It's a movie theater move.
Wait, what are you trying to
It's so accurate, you're right. You're like,
Oh, because like you try and get up one.
Yes. Yes. You won't get it.
I don't get it.
you put the arm for the girl.
You tell me a better way to have it always ingrained in your mind. You'll never forget what square root function looks like. There you go.
Like that. Oh my god.
Oh my god, the fact that
Felix looked so uncomfortable when he did that. That was great. Okay, ready? We're gonna do the next one. So without even graphing, how is the second one gonna be different? Ready? Focus.
Do you know Hoffman's?
No. How is the second one gonna be different than the first?
It's gonna go down 3.
It's gonna go down by 3.
You steal that.
That's when you get caught. That's right.
So we go to our graph
Alright, wait, what are we graphing now?
You just said it.
and focus. We're going to our graph. We're going quicker. No surprise. We are going chronologically, like top to bottom of the page. I wonder what the next thing we're graphing is.
X.
X cubed.
X cubed.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? It's like I am following the directions. All right. Delete. Scroll up.
How did it shift from Y? X.
I already wrote. It goes down by 1.
Oh.
All right. So X cubed.
Yo, that
And-
was real trippy, bro. What the?
Shh.
X cubed.
All right. Do you want to sit up? So how? I had a square button. No. There, does that make you happy? Okay. So I had a square, but I need a cube. How do I change the exponent? How do I make a new exponent?
You go to the thing.
There's this little arrow, right? It looks like it's literally called a caret key. I don't know why. It's an
Wait, what?
arrow. Looks like an arrow up. It's right here. I'm pointing at it.
Wait, I
On
don't
the
have an arrow.
calculator,
What
on
is that
your
for?
screen.
What does that do?
Exponent.
Changes. It gives you an exponent. So I go and click the little caret key, and then I can put a 3. I could put any power I want.
Or you can
So there's a button. There's a button specifically. There's a button specifically for square. But if you want any exponent other than 2, you have to put the caret key. Okay. I just stood up at the board and pointed at it for 15 minutes.
X plus 3.
Is it plus 3?
It's
Minus 3.
Minus 3.
So notice I'm not in the exponent. I am outside the exponent. Your graph must look exactly like this.
My graph looks exactly like that.
Where?
If it doesn't look like this, you inputted it wrong. Make sure this minus 3 is not up
I did
here.
minus 2.
Make sure it's below. In line with the X.
So Brian,
Well, I
so
can't go back.
now that I'm looking at these and seeing that they're in like completely different shapes, on the test, on the first 2 questions, what would be a shape that you can't have?
What the heck?
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Right here, crosses 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so it just can't cross
it
multiple.
can't cross the
Vertical line test. Vertical line test. Vertical line test.
Wait.
Wonderful.
first one.
All right.
And the second one.
I'm surprised I got
So
55.
I think
I
you're in the
think
exponent still.
I'm surprised I got 55. Bro, today, not my favorite test.
You had multiple tests.
No, I got 2 tests.
What?
No, I was saying to him that today was not my test day. So I got an 80.
I took the SAT 85 twice.
What'd you get?
And I was so much
First time
nervous
I
about
studying, I
that.
got 1080.
I was so mad.
What?
That's honestly
I wish I got
Yes.
80 is great.
That's
Yeah, what? I would be so fine with
You
that.
could have just so many schools in
I am
All right,
sorry
here we
about
go.
that.
Here we go. So
I took it again.
if you already had it, all right. So done with you guys wasting time.
Sorry.
Next time I have to stop. I'm kicking people out because I need to make sure the people who are with it are getting their money's worth with me today. This is not giving you money's worth. You paid to attend to school. I shouldn't have to stop and constantly tell you guys to be quiet. Okay, cool. So guess what? You already had enough time to draw this on your notes if you did not already. So I come through. The only important part is like, hey, guess what? It looks roughly like this. That's x cubed. And then if I want to do x cubed minus 3, I go down to -3, and it looks something like that. So literally the graph from purple to blue, from the parent function, the one that's just regular, to the transformed function, the one where I'm adding or subtracting a number, it's transformed by going down by 3. All right, so group 1 analysis question. Circle the type of movement that describes the graphs in group 1. So what is happening with all the graphs we just did?
They go
Up and down. Up and down. So describe how each of these move without graphing. How would this be moving compared to just the x cubed function?
Goes up and down.
Up by 5, and this one is down by 4. You don't even know what 2 to the x looks like, but you know what it will look like how it's being shifted.
Is that on the most recent one? I can't really tell that it's down.
Okay, so if you have a question, we raise our hand. No more talking out of turn. Tal had a question.
Okay, so no, actually it doesn't really matter, but like this I can't even like tell. Like it looks like it moved from left to right. Oh, actually I'm stupid. I can see from the
Yeah, you see from the curve.
I was like looking
All
at
right.
it and like this is weird shit.
All right, you had a question, Jordan.
Is this gonna be on the test?
Transformations, yes.
No, that kind of question.
So which graph did I start class with and say was the only special one you had to know?
The
Absolute value. But I also told you guys, I'm showing you different functions that you don't know just so you can see the trend. So you can see the trend. I'm planting seeds in your little brains. So in like a month, 3 months, guess what? Oh my gosh, I can refer back to this. You see your notes and you're like, I remember. All right, guess what we're going to learn about now?
What kind of seed?
Horizontal shifts.
I knew they were a thing.
Okay, so we're going to go a little quicker. So here we go. The first graph is absolute value of x. The second one, notice it is inside the absolute value sign. Inside absolute value. Do we know what this is going to look like? Probably not. So let's go ahead and let's try it out. So I have to clear my graphs. Clear the graphs I had. Clear the graphs, and then I need absolute value. Don't forget, it is where the math template key is, which is to the right of the number 9. So I'm doing absolute value of x as my first graph. No surprise, it's a v. Next. So oh my gosh, my thing disappeared. I had to push tab so it will pop up again. I click on the math template key. And inside the absolute value sign, I will have x minus 2. Is that right? Minus 2?
Yeah,
Okay. X minus 2. Ooh, what's happening? From the blue to the red, what's happening?
Moved 1, 2 over.
2 to the right.
Like a double.
Even though it
2
was
to the
minus,
right.
So positive is still
So Tala's getting to something I want you guys to notice. The minus inside doesn't mean it goes towards negative. It goes the opposite way you think. So having the 2 inside the parentheses, inside the absolute value, it moves it the opposite way you think. Here, it's like, oh, a negative 2. No, it goes positive 2.
because it's absolute value.
That has nothing to do with absolute value. Yeah. So, but it is a good try. It is a good try. I see the wheels turning. It's good. All right, so I have my absolute value. So I'm trying to do all of the general graphs in the purple, so that way you can go back and look. And I'm shifting 2 to the right. So this is absolute value of x minus 2. Absolute value of x minus 2. So what's happening here? We shift
Another question. Just like drop it on our calculator and then write it in. That's such a good question.
No. I'm gonna have you guys. I might make a no calculator portion where you actually have to graph absolute value by yourself.
That's
Next Friday? I have no, it's not at all. I have a practice test for you guys. Maybe that would answer your questions better. Cool. All right. So what? I'm sorry. What? Oh, Felix, here. Do you want to pass them out?
Yeah, I would be honored to.
Figure you want to walk around.
What?
Damn.
Yeah. That's why. Come on. All right. So ready? What I want you to do? Any extras come to me. Just give them to the people who are literally sitting here. Because I have.
Everyone sitting?
Yeah, just the people sitting. I have 2 sections. I haven't given my other section a practice test yet.
Wait.
I'm gonna just hand it to like.
Sometimes I give them to people and they put them on empty desks. And I have to go around and walk and get them again.
Do that then.
That is like
I don't know. All right, ready? X squared versus x minus 1 squared. So we already graphed this. So we go through and I have to clear what my previous graphs were.
So it's x squared is the first one.
So, oops. So, look what happened. I'm going to show you what you do when this happens. It says REL1. That's a relation. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is push menu. I'm going to put graph, entry, edit, and then I just push function. I just want it to be a function. Cool. So if that ever happens to you, that's how you fix it. Calculator skills. First one we're doing, x squared.
There's 2 in there, so I'll put it over there.
Okay.
Would you like a
And
packet?
thank you. Did you get one for yourself?
Yeah, I get my.
Thanks. The solutions for the practice test are already online for you. Cool. All right, next one we have x squared. No, x minus 1 squared. I had to have this in parentheses. So you had to have parentheses around x minus 1 squared.
Wait, is it the one underneath?
What?
No, I mean, like, what is the problem?
This is x squared and the x minus 1 squared. 6. So notice if your number's inside the parentheses, inside absolute value, it's horizontal. So here the minus 1, you would think it's going -1, but it's opposite what you think. It's going +1. Okay. So how do you actually draw this? You're going to have a little U shape, starting 0, 0, and you're going to shift over by 1 for this one. Yep. So we're going to go over like how you actually would graph these parabolas, these U-shapes, but today that's not the goal. The goal is for you to get an intuition, a basic understanding of how you shift it. So if it's inside absolute value, inside parentheses, that's your horizontal. If your number is outside it and you're adding it at the end, it's a vertical. Okay. How do we shift? We go to the right by 1.
Wait, so an exponent is shifting?
Inside the parentheses it, would be horizontal. If it's outside, like remember how we were like adding 4 at the end or whatever?
Yeah.
That's a vertical.
No, I know that. I get that.
Okay, so those are the only 2 we're going to focus on for like now. Question. Yeah, go. Okay. It's fine. Okay. Do you want to go? I mean, I think you've used it already, right?
I can't lose another point.
Okay. All right, let's graph the next one. Here we go. No, I wanted to do the whole thing today. Well, if you add up all the minutes spent, baloney. There's more groups. I know. So this next one. So I said, last time I said you guys got to be on your ball because we are like going.
Is it x plus 3?
So square root x. So I have to do root x. And then I'm doing, let's see, what was the other one? Root x plus 3. Okay. So I have to go to, get to my second line, go to control x squared, that way I get my square root, and it's x plus 3. Notice it's inside the square root. So if it's inside the parentheses, inside absolute value, inside the square root, that's when you have your horizontal. And the plus 3, you would think, oh, positive. No, it's opposite what you think. It's going to the left by 3. Okay. Totally, because I made all of this math up. I did not. This is just square root x, and I want to shift over by 3 and do the little movie theater. Okay, how does it move left by 3?
Because the plus 3.
Yep. Okay.
And it's inside also, that's why.
Let's keep steam rolling ahead. Adi, please sit up. Are you done with all these?
When is Alex doing this?
Yeah?
Friday at 8.
You can, so for some of the homework are actually some of the problems later.
Can we do Alex?
I finished all.
No. Literally, she says she's done with all of them. She knows how to use her calculator. She's done. You guys can feel free to move faster than me.
I was doing it with you. I didn't know I could just go ahead.
Why not? If you understand how to do it.
I'm 16 years old, so I'll get this.
All right. 2 to the x and...
Plus, it starts at 0.
What do you mean? No plus at the end?
Yeah.
All right,
Or minus.
let's go. Let's keep going. What?
Let's just say like,
Need.
you can do it without a calculator, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm having you guys practice your calculator skills. I'm teaching you how to input square roots and squares and cubes,
Is that
just to
X
make
plus
sure you
5
guys
all
knew.
the exponent? Sorry.
This is the plus 5 is in the exponent.
Okay.
All right, ready? Let's go through. Let's keep going. I have no problem if you're good with your calculator and you want to go faster. I'm fine with that, but don't distract others.
Okay, so I'm done with all of them. Now can I do Alex?
No. So there's a couple pages in the notes that are part of your homework. Do you see on the? So literally it says there's a couple pages. You can work on those.
Oh, graph the following.
If you're done with what we're doing right now. All right, so to the x power, I go back. I'm going to plot it like this. It looks something like, let's see,
The last one?
looks something like this. If I go back to my graph, I have to do the other one. I'm going to do 2 to the x plus 5. So what that does is it literally shifts the whole graph over by 5. Okay, so shift over by 5. So how did it shift? Left by 5. All right, so these are left and right questions. These are left and right shifts. This is 2 to the x plus 5.
Like these type of questions.
Look at the practice test you're just given.
Okay.
Okay. All right, what is weird about how these graphs move?
What?
Opposite way you think. So for instance, if there's this, so the plus 1 on the inside moves it left. A minus on the inside moves it right. All right, describe how each pair of graphs would move differently. So this one goes up by 1. This one goes left by 1. So you'll see on the test, there's questions about transformations. And later, think about future you in a month, 3 months. They're going to wish they pay attention right now because I'm going to refer back to it and I'm going to say, look in your notes. Gotta be with it, you know? All right, so think to yourself about D and then turn to the person next to you and you have 5 seconds. Describe how they change. How are these different? Describe to the person next to you.
How is it different? Okay, it's different because it moves down 7. Yeah, right? And down. Oh, because it's inside the surface.
Inside versus outside.
So inside is for
Horizontal.
So it doesn't matter if
Outside's
it's
vertical.
or
Exactly.
or anything, it's just
Exactly. Inside the absolute value, inside the parentheses for your exponent.
How are we supposed to graph the x though? Like, let's say we don't get our calculator. You're gonna give us a number in the v? And, like,
So
yeah.
if I say, hey, graph absolute value of x minus 7, you're like, oh, it's literally absolute value shifted over, shifted right by 7. So you literally move to the right by 7, then it's 1 and 1. Yeah.
Oh, like up 1 down or up 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of having to make a T-chart every time, trying to build your intuition of like, oh, you just move it and then it's the same graph.
That's like what Stein would
Would
do.
these, would those be the
I
ones,
would-
which are the ones that look like a
Probably
squiggly line where it's
wait,
like
left, right.
that?
Then upward. Oh, I know.
That we did.
The cube. Cube, to the third power. All right, describe how each of these below would shift. So I do want to go over these. I'm gonna like pick people, and they're gonna tell me. I'm gonna pick people. So Jordan, how's this first one move?
What?
I don't know how to do this.
All right,
I know.
let's go. I'll just Ruby, how's this one move?
It moves up
Up
6.
And
Right horizontal to 1.
right one, exactly. Awesome. Let's do done. You wanna do B? Done.
I know how to do this.
Exactly. Let's have Kaden. What about C? The 1C.
And let's up. Nope.
No, wait, what? We're on, stop, that's so unnecessary.
No, it's okay.
Okay, so we're on C. C.
Never mind. It's right now is down one.
All right, write the equation for an absolute value function that's shifted up by 3. How would this look?
It would be inside plus 3.
Up by 3. So it's outside the absolute value sign. Versus if I write for a function that's shifted left by 6.
Plus 6, x plus 6 inside.
Exactly. Shifted left by 6 means I'm going to the left, going the negative direction. That's good. This is my goal. That's why I'm doing this. I want you to understand it. How messed up would it be if I did this and I want you to like not understand it? That would be dumb. Why do they pay me? All right, write the equation. Ooh, trick play. We got 2 at once. Absolute value, shifted down 3 and right 6. 2 transformations, 1 graph. Oh my God. What now?
I lost you.
We haven't answered one in a while. Natalie, what do you think?
It does y equals x minus or x plus 6, and then plus or down.
So down 3 means minus 3. Right 6 means you put the minus 6 in. Cool. Okay. How are you feeling so far?
Can we do a couple more?
Yeah, we're gonna do more. Don't worry. So you can see if it's outside the absolute value signs, it's gonna be up and down. If it's inside the absolute value, it's left and right. So the idea is, if you know how to draw absolute value of x, if you know how to draw absolute value of x, you know how to draw all these other functions. Because guess what I do? Number 2, you literally go up 3, so you make a point at 0,3, and then you just do normal absolute value. For number 3, you shift left 6, and then you just draw the absolute value function starting at 6 to the left. Okay. So we still have 5 minutes. We're going to do the group 3 reflections, and that's where we'll stop because it's just one more. Yeah. Perfect. All right, so reflections.
I ain't even studied for this test, bro. I already know. Yeah, what?
Okay.
100%.
So what I want to graph, I want to graph absolute value of x and negative absolute value of x on the same graph. So I'm going to draw absolute value of x, and I need to do negative absolute value of x.
Wouldn't you just go the opposite way?
No, thank God. Yeah, that was wrong.
X. Okay, and focus. We're focusing right now. We're going through this graph. 100% I'm expecting this to be in your calculator. You need to be able to enter this in your calculator.
So is it equal x and negative x or something?
So you put in the absolute value of x and you have to scroll to the left of it and put the negative sign.
In the front. And is it inside?
No, it's outside the absolute value in front. Literally, how I entered it is how you should enter it. Okay. So this first one, it's just the absolute value of x. So this is just absolute value of x. The one I'm going to draw in blue is the reflection of it. Notice I'm flipped across the x-axis. It's reflected across. It's mirrored across. So how did it change? It's mirrored across. It's flipped across x-axis. What?
I did negative x, but absolute value.
Flipped across x-axis. You can say reflected, mirrored, flipped. Literally, you take the V and you rotate it around the x-axis. So, analysis questions, this is a reflection. So if I'm looking at this one, how would this negative x cubed compare to x cubed?
It would be up or wait, actually, I'm not sure.
Literally, you would flip the whole thing.
Yeah, exact same thing. It's like a mirror.
Flipped. A mirrored. And we're going to go through, and this is how we'll end. We're going to graph this. to make sure to see what it looks like.
Okay. What you put? You're just stupid and you don't know.
Stop, that's mean. So I put x cubed,
Would it be
x cubed, shh. Why? What is this nonsense? I put a negative x to the third power. Literally flipped across. What used to be positive is now negative, and what used to be negative is now positive. So we're gonna do a little kinesthetic. Look, this is what x cubed looks like. I want you to do it too. So your right hand should be up. Right hand up, left hand down. Jacob, come on. No, hold on. Ready? And let's reflect it.
Yeah, boy.
Ah, okay. Ready? X, absolute value of x. And reflection. Down. Okay. Let's try it again. X, y equals x. Reflection. Literally flip it. Okay. Cool. Let's try one more time. One more. Absolute value of x. Negative absolute value of x. Okay, literally. You see, you feel it, you feel the flipping, the mirroring. Okay, and that's where we'll stop for today.